Chapter 22. 1914. Alfred's life has been so bright, lively, laudable, and light, full of geniality, generosity, and goodness. He works in a green grocery, he works at carpentry, and he performs random acts of kindness. But Europe's chessboard is set with the pawns in their grooves, as the war makers make their opening moves, and the war gets ready to start. So Alfred faces months full of pain, as the war makers play their game, and pressure him to play a part. The year is 1914. A Belgian doctor is performing the first of a non-direct transfusion of blood using a sanitized flask. An American handyman is patenting a revolutionary gas mask. And an Italian cardinal is being elected as Pope. In America, some performers are debuting the foxtrot dance. In Panama, the construction of a canal is starting to advance. And in Germany, a group of churches are uniting with hope. Whilst the British vote on Home Rule for the Irish, and annex Cyprus along with its fish, roads, railways, and rope. But as black and white pieces take their positions on Europe's checkered board, Alfred feels abhorred, full of dejection, despondency, and despair. It starts during a procession past the Serbian Hall, where Austria-Hungary's Black Knight is the first piece to fall after it is assassinated without prayer. Germany's Black Bishops slide to Russia where they try to seduce and propose a truce before our rooks attack there. Before European civilization commits suicide as nations pick their side and sacrifice pieces on every square. So invited by a flyer which reads, "Don't be a soldier, be a man." Influenced by the Neutrality Committee's plan and inspired by the Neutrality League's flair. These events propel Cleo and Alfred to march on ahead towards an anti-war protest in the big city square. They march past shops which are full of knickknacks, bric-a-bracs, and dusty gubbins, salt shakers, newspapers, and musty nubbins. They march past his row of smoking chimneys, these carts full of cheese, and these carts full of meat, these red brick houses, these ladies in blouses, and these men breaking stones in the street. Alfred has already rebelled against cadet meetings and stories of army beatings, and a series of experiences which have brought him here. So he feels at home amongst these butter makers, bankers, builders, and bakers, who have all begun to cheer. With attentive eyes, these peacemakers wear trousers, tuxedos, and ties, and white hats which are looped by black laces. With open ears, they wear calico skirts which are free from smears, and flat caps which shade their faces. Here is this gangly lamplighter, this muscly firefighter, and this lime burner who is dressed in white, this boiler fitter, this babysitter, and that student who seems up for a fight. And above them all, in front of that phallic column, is a Scottish socialist who looks slightly solemn as he takes in all of these sights. With a face which looks hearty, this man was the first ever leader of the British Labour Party and believes in women's rights. His formal three-piece suit is just as dark and just as stark as the mine he worked down as a child. His face is almost square, with a head of white hair and a beard which is neatly styled. The suffragist looks up at him with passionate love, camouflaged by this dirty glove and his glasses which hide her eyes. This brush, broom and buffer, doily, dustpan and duster, which form a housemaid's disguise. "Say, that's my man, so to speak," she cries. "One does hope he does a stand-up job. This war malarkey is so awfully immature. It reminds one of two tots squabbling over a silly little toy." And now this man opens his beak, puffs one cheek, and starts to speak. "Welcome to the streets. For this, the biggest protest in 2,000 years of British history," he starts to shriek. "When I walked hither today, people were stood shoulder to shoulder, packed in wall to wall, and lined up from end to end of every street." The Scottish socialist pauses as his crowd bellow, before their cheers mellow, and then recede. He takes a deep breath, looks up afresh, and then begins to proceed. "There are those who said, you must speak on the issue of Germany and Austria-Hungary. But this is wrong. It is wrong because there can only be one standard by which we judge nations. There cannot be a double standard. If we denounce one country for attacking another country, then we must denounce all countries who attack other countries. The Prime Minister says he's worried about marauding armies marching across Europe, where he's in charge of a nation whose army has marched across more countries and continents than any other in history. A nation which has inspired Germany to behave in the manner she is behaving." The Scottish socialist pauses to take in his peacemakers' lifted hats, noisy claps, and boundless adulation. "Neutrality for all is held. Down with the war," is yelled, and "not on our name" is growled with exultation. "We can take pride in the fact that this protest is like a microcosm of Great Britain," the Scottish socialist continues with elation. "People of all ages, classes, nationalities, and religions have united hither on these here streets. We should be proud to be marching together. But can we be proud of our Prime Minister? Can we examine the record of this man? Has this man, who is about to send our brothers, sons, and lovers to their deaths, ever been to war himself? No, he has not. This creature is a coward. He spent his entire career behind a desk, and yet he has the gall to send our men away to die. He expects us to take the lives of tens of thousands of innocent German men, women, and children. Whatever for? In the name of a madman who killed a duke in some faraway province? I don't think so. This bagman shouts toot toot, and this restorer shoots hoot hoot, while that boy climbs up a crane. Whilst that clergyman chats to a miller, this loafer leans on a pillar, and that girl climbs up a drain. Who complained about the Kaiser when he built a railway to our oil in Persia? Who complained whilst we collaborated with him in East Africa? The war maker speaking against the Kaiser presently didn't give a damn about him when he allied with us against Russia in the Balkans last year. So don't give me any hypocrisy from the Prime Minister about his concern for human rights. Wars only ever lead to a blatant disregard for human rights. They only make the poor poorer and condemn the poorest to tragic impotence. The war makers are no example. We must set the example. We, the peacemakers, must take the lead. We, the workers of the world, must unite. For together we can conquer the militarists, we can conquer the imperialists, and we can let the war makers know that their days of plunder and butchery are over. We can send a message of peace and fraternity to everyone with less liberty than ourselves. Down with the rule of the upper classes. Down with the rule of brute force. Down with mass slaughter. And down with the war. Not by our hands, not by our mouths, not by our hearts, and not in our name. As he shouts his conclusion, these peacemakers celebrate with inclusion, passion, pleasure, and profusion. Neutral, 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 they chant as they punch the air. Peace, 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 they shout across this square. Love, 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 they blare. Alfred walks past people who are small, people who are tall, and people who are full of peaceful emotions. He falls in love with their tumultuous applause, riotous roars, and peaceful notions. But this anti-war protest is far from its success. It's just a placebo for the people. These peacemakers feel so satisfied, gratified, gay, gallant, and gleeful, but they do not achieve anything acceptable, perceptible, or peaceful. For, whilst the grey-haired and split-chinned Prime Minister was not at all sinister when he spoke of improved relations with Germany just last week, when he said that Britain should be no more than a spectator in this conflict, sounded strict and sounded sleek. And, whilst he does not want to commit, his coalition cabinet is split, and the Labour leader is pro-peace too. But the war makers are up for a fight, so they hold a cabinet meeting tonight, at which they cry out anew. Germany's black pawns march into Belgium, where they are not at all welcome, before they outflank France's white defence, before Luxembourg is captured by the Black Queen, and starts to scream as the hostilities all commence. As empires are sucked in by secret contracts and secret pacts, which tie Britain to France and France to Russia too. They tie Russia to Serbia, across cities, countryside, and suburbia, which puts Europe into a stew. When Serbia is invaded by Austria-Hungary, who are allied to Germany and Italy, and the war makers stage their coup. British knights neigh in Parliament, and overpower their government with bloodlust in their bloodshot eyes, before the peacemakers fall on their swords, in the Commons and in the Lords, rather than compromise. So Britain descends from a nervous sort of peace into a state of war which does not want to cease, and which wants to be adored. Warmakers mobilise and anticipate glory. Citizens celebrate and feel hunky-dory, whilst Alfred feels abhorred. He walks through his street party, where this road sweeper seems hearty, as does this out-of-work actor, this potential killer, this inebriated distiller, and this intoxicated contractor. These people start to shout, scream and sing, skip, shimmy and swing, as they all come together, as their spirits are lifted by this glowing sunshine, flowing wine, and hedonistic weather, which encourages them to lose their individuality and the sense of morality near that purple heather. Where they contract a contagious bout of optimism, which infects them with its populism, with symptoms which include eagerness, enthusiasm, and expectation. This disease spreads undiagnosed to infect teeth, tummies and toes, all across this war-crazed nation. And because of this optimism epidemic, this blind faith pandemic, no one notices a cat beneath their feet. Only Cleo sees this skinny feline. Only Cleo hears her whine, and only Cleo dives towards a street. She dives through this mob, is kicked in her gob, grabs a cat, and begins to retreat. Cleo gives this cat a loving glance, which puts her into a sleepy trance, and makes it begin to purr. before Alfred forms a cradle in his shirt, which reduces this cat's hurt and helps to support her. Cleo wraps his cat in an orange sweater and nurses her till she is better, when Alfred gives her to a widow who would like a pet, before he goes to see Bernie, who looks more dejected and more neglected than the last time these friends both met. "It's bonkers, Alfred! Do lally! Cuckoo!" he starts to fret. "I've lost my job. Good God, man, I just don't know what to do." Bernie had been a commuter who worked for an international food producer for whom he dealt with purchase orders. He loved doing office chores, putting files into drawers, and sending food across national borders. But the British Navy is taken to the high seas and launched blockade to bring Germany to her knees as hostilities continue to grow. That blockade is stopping weapons from reaching enemy hands, resources from reaching their rivals' lands, and food from reaching their foe, such that thousands of German civilians are taking their final breath, and German children are starving to death without any drugs, drink, or dough. It is not good news for international companies or any of the employees who need foreign trade to thrive, and it is not good news for people in Bernie's situation who need a new vacation in order to survive. "It's a god-awful slop I'm in," he continues with a jive. "My income is falling and prices are rising, unemployment is high and opportunities are low. No one's going to employ me. Not really. No, not at all. Most companies are even using child labour. Good God, man, some of them are even employing women. I don't know what they think they're playing at. They can't do that. What chance does that leave the rest of us? God blimey, it's rum. My heart, my liver, it ain't half bad." These words filled Alfred with empathy, sorrow, sadness, and sympathy, but he does not know how to reply. So he takes Bernie out, past his sailor, shoemaker, and scout, and this girl with a wandering eye. He brings him to this music hall, where cigarette smoke reaches each wall, and his people all slurp their drinks, whilst his floorboards squeak, and his people speak, near that model sphinx. Alfred and Bernie watch this amateur ventriloquist, this athletic trampolinist, and this magician, this dog show, this puppet show, and this magician. They watch these actresses who wear extravagant dresses as they act with frivolity, and these bell ringers who perceive as singers who sing with very little quality. They sing Sergeant Solomon Isaac Stein about a Jew who trades in a trench full of grime and lends money at 90%. And it's a long way to Tipperary about an Irishman who becomes contrary when his illiteracy causes him torment. For his group of bubbly brunettes who are dressed in his khaki sets sing songs to unite the nation. They dance a soldier's march with a boyish arch which earns them this ovation. "We must all stick together, the clouds will soon roll by. We must all stick together, never mind the old school tie. United we shall stand, whatever may befall. The richest in the land, the poorest of us all. We must all stick together, birds of a feather, the clouds will soon roll by." This haggard strumpet, who's dressed up like a hot piece of crumpet, sings songs to encourage enlistment. She dances on tiptoes and strikes a pose to secure this crowd's commitment. "We don't want to lose you, but we think you ought to go. For your king and your country to need you so. We shall want you and we shall miss you, but with all our might and main, we shall cheer you, thank you, kiss you, when you come home again." And this group of blonde bombshells, who are dressed in short skirts and low-cut lapels, sing songs to seduce the youth. They dance with swinging hips and kissing lips, which they use to disguise the truth. "I didn't like you much before you joined the army, John, but I do like you cocky now you got your khaki on. I do feel proud of you, I do want to boy, I do want to give you a special time tonight." The performance is finished, but this blonde bombshell's energy is undiminished, so she stays on this wooden stage, where she exposes her breasts, which are shaped like eggs, bends her knee to open her legs, and strokes her slender rib cage, before she gives her buttocks a jiggle, gives her belly a wiggle, and then begins to engage. "Now I know there's a bunch of mighty fine gentlemen in here tonight, and I love you one and all," she says as she blows this kiss, winks with bliss, and starts to hiss. "But only be yours, all yours to hold. If you fight in wars be bold. For sure, it must be told. For you, I want to hold. I want to see every young man in front of me, every last one of you beauties, up here on this stage right away, signing up for your king, for your country, and for me. 'Cause you're all my boys, my dear, dear boys, and I'm just waiting for you to come and get me." As she lets out this last frisky giggle and this flirty jiggle, Alfred's ears are bombarded by those brass bands, and his eyes are blinded by the standing ovations, hypnotic gyrations, and clapping hands. So Alfred cannot see this music hall transform, rotate, revolve and reform, whilst its audience all begin to yowl, before these merchants sell cheap music to earn a wage, and these war makers register men on stage, who all begin to howl. I want to see blood and guts and gore in my teeth, Carter shouts, as if he has no choice. I want to kill, a bailiff shouts, as if he is in love with the sound of his own voice. Kill, 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 a draper shouts, as if to rejoice. Alfred is caught off balance beneath his curtain's valance as he's pushed on into this queue, as he's punched by his fist and slapped by his wrist until his face turns completely blue. I'm going to sign on, Bernie begins to coo. What? Alfred replies, whilst he loses a shoe. Upon my Sammy, they pay. Good God, man, they pay. They pay good money. They house you, feed you, clothe you, and pay you $1 a day. Oh, Alfred, I was in Doubting Ditch before you brought me here, but now I'm in Certainty Castle. But you're only 17. Good God, man, they'll take anyone. They're desperate. They're even taking 14-year-olds. But they'll ask you to kill. Please don't do it. Please, please, please. Oh, get the girls. I don't have a girl like you. This is my chance. Girls? Money? Alfred pauses. You're going to war for lust and filthy lucre? Really? Really, Bernie? And now it is Bernie who twiddles his thumb, because he is struck dumb and unable to reply. He just shrugs with resignation, sighs with frustration, and tries not to cry. Please don't kill anyone, Alfred says, whilst he looks frustrated, agitated, and awry. Please, 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 not even to save yourself. Please don't kill anyone. I'd be ever so grateful. I'd be very much obliged. But Bernie cannot reply because he is pushed along this queue and shoved in his shoulders too before he is lifted on stage to enlist, whilst Alfred heads for safer lands and avoids these slapping hands, the swinging bat and that swinging fist. After a night of broken sleep which leaves him yawning, Alfred searches for peace at church this morning, inspired by the Pope's call for neutrality. Dressed in his priestly attire, that man has demanded a ceasefire, a truce and a dose of sanity. So Alfred runs down the street, through the sleet, and sits among these people who are wearing their suits. They are wearing their formal frocks, black socks, polished shoes, and polished boots. Alfred feels at home near this engraved set of stones, this crucified Christ with protruding bones, and these icons which hang from the bleachers, these Gothic gargoyles which are covered in Gothic boils, and these columns which are covered in creepers. So he prays through the Apostles' Creed and the Lord's Prayer. He meditates on benedictions with religious flair, and he muses over some psalms. He sings a lost and sinful world like a palace knave, an eternal Father, strong to save, with open eyes and open arms, before he settles into his seat, as the vicar gets to his feet, with sweaty toes and sweaty palms. Judging by his busty boobs and his bulging belly, which wobbles around like a plate of fruit jelly, this vicar must love to eat. A smirk usurps his chin, which is far from thin, and his lips, which look like meat. Heavenly Father, he begins to bleat, we bow in your presence. May your word be our all, your spirit our teacher, and your glory our supreme concern. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let us remember the 39 articles on which our church is built. Let us remember the article which tells us that the king and his government, as the chief powers in this holy empire, are ordained to rule on all matters, ecclesiastical and civil, as judge, jury, and executioner. And let us remember Article 37, which tells us that it is not only lawful, under the command of the authorities, to serve our country in battle, but is honourable, reverent, and chivalrous too, because those of us who are able have a divine duty to fight, for king, for country, and for Jesus Christ our Lord. Alfred feels that this vicar's speech crushes free communion with the Scripture's law, free love with dogmatic awe, and free association with bureaucracy. That his vicar prefers the text of an earthly king to the spirit of a celestial God, to push, pressure and prod, like a man who carries a boat when he is not near the sea. Let us remember Matthew chapter 10, the vicar continues his plea. This tells us that Jesus did not come to earth to bring peace. Oh no, he came carrying a sword, on a mission to turn fathers against sons, mothers against daughters, and brothers against sisters too. He came to make enemies of us all. My congregation, we are pupils, and a pupil can never be above his teacher. Our Lord, our teacher in heaven, has put a sword in our hands, taught us how to use it, and expects us to fight. So we must fight our German fathers, Austrian mothers, and Ottoman brothers. We must fight them in the name of the Lord. As he speaks, The vicar's arms fly outspread, and his face turns red, which makes him look fairly gory. His words pour forth with tub-thumping, heart-pumping, and goose-bump-inducing glory. He starts to wave and he starts to nod. But the god he is talking of is not Alfred's god. It's an interloper who's been invented by human pride. Like a statue made from rotten wood disguised by beautiful stones, or a beautiful tomb filled with rotting bones. It's an attractive god which is ugly inside. For those brave men amongst us who are ready to defend their nation, their community, and their religion, we salute you, the vicar says as he stands here narrow-eyed. Your sacrifice from a battlefield should be like Christ upon the cross, a martyrdom which will save us all. Because we must stop these heathen hordes. We must stop this godless goons. We must stop these pagan Germans from bringing a curse to our land. These pagans who chop off the hands of babies are not the children of God. These pagans who crucify their enemies and drink their blood are not the children of God. These pagans who hang monks from the rods inside their own church bells and ring them until those monks die are not the children of God. To kill a German, to kill one of these subhumans, is not like killing one of us. Their blood is not like ours, their minds are not like ours, and their souls are not like ours either. Killing these heathens is a divine service, done in the name of truth and justice, intelligence, respectability and strength. It must be done so that good can conquer evil, purity can reign, and civilization as we know it can survive. Because this war is a crusade, a holy war ordained by God, a war for Christianity against the Antichrist, and a war for the Bible itself. This is a war for those who respect the weak, honour treaties, and stand shoulder to shoulder beneath the Lord. And so, to every man of fighting age sat here today, I tell you this: sign up! Sign up today! Sign up forthwith! This is your once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to act with holy patriotism, sacred honour, and divine duty. To serve in this glorious battle. Sign up! Sign up today! Sign up forthwith! His vicar's huff-puffery fills Alfred with angry indignation, angry irritation, and angry disbelief. His body is overcome by numbness, his mouth is overcome by dumbness, and his mind is full of grief. He cannot believe the way this vicar binds burdens which are hard to bear, without a qualm and without care, as he threatens his congregation's health. The vicar reminds Alfred of a rabbi who refused to save a life on the Sabbath day, but called for compassion anyway, since he calls for war but avoids it himself. And Alfred is overcome by a mixture of bothersome pain, bothersome shame, and bothersome gore, as the vicar attacks those who are unwilling to join in with the killing and go to fight in the war. Don't you think you'll be doing anything but evil by shirking your duties in the name of so-called pacifism or peace? He begins to roar. Every man who is content to labour in our chosen nation must be prepared to fight for it too. Those who aren't should forfeit their right to work here. Every man who is content to consume food grown on our green and pleasant land must be prepared to fight for him too. Those who aren't should forfeit their right to eat here. And every man who is content to reside under our heavenly skies must be prepared to fight for them too. Those who aren't should forfeit their right to live here. They should be taken to the place which gets bombed the most. May God be with you, in the name of the Son, the Father, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Amen, the congregation replied before they exalt the commandments carved into these stones, and this crucified Christ with protruding bones, who gazes towards the heavens. They open their books and they sing along, to validate their vicar with this greedy song, which lusts for wealth, wagons, and weapons. Bring me my bow of burning gold, bring me my arrows of desire, bring me my spear, O clouds unfold, bring me my chariot of fire. But Alfred refuses to bow down to this effigy of Christ, which is rather hairy, this grandiose statue of her Mother Mary, or this garish painting of St. Paul. He rises above the temptations in this den of thieves, where his people worship false gods as they please, whilst they chant, croon, and call. He rises above this incense, this bloody altar, and that bloody fence, these idols which are short, and those idols which are tall. He gets up from his dark polished pew, past his chauffeur and that rector too, before he leaves this wayward church. He leaves his Sunday school teacher, his mother, and that preacher behind him and in the lurch. Alfred blames himself for coming here when he had felt disrupted, to seek solace from a vicar he knew had been corrupted, when he accepted the retired captain's gold pieces. But he resists his clawing, clutching and clasping hands, which try to pull him down into the hellish lands, as the pressure to fight increases. He backs himself to overcome the propaganda on cinema stages and newspaper pages, which has become omnipresent, overbearing and oppressive. As copies of the Prime Minister's speeches are handed to the youth, and the Defence of the Realm Act censors the truth in a manner which is aggressive. Censors examine every substance which is sent to the mail, mere crayon marks across private letters on a massive scale, and confiscate pamphlets too, whilst posters proclaim, "Remember Belgium, our ally. No price is too high, and your country needs you." People are misled by this deception, which breeds false perception, which 200,000 citizens a month cannot withstand, as gleaners, gardeners and goons, lepers, layabouts and loons sign on across the land. A quarter of the size of its French and German equivalents, the British Army acts without diligence to recruit somewhat cleverly. They recruit people on antidepressants and shaven adolescents that are erratic, epileptic and elderly. They recruit unemployed people who are desperate for remuneration, poets who are desperate for inspiration, and bachelors who are desperate for wives, students who want a gap year at war, and peasants with nothing to fight for, who flee from their hollow lives. So Alfred watches this crowd become leery, loutish and loud as they cheer his recruits off to war. He counts 1 murderer, 2 murderers, 3 murderers, and 4. But there are peacemakers who are refusing to be thrown, so Alfred is not alone, and he does have some other comrades. The good German is amongst their number, but he is the victim of the poison, prejudice and plunder which was started by a tabloid's tirades. That paper has inspired people to refuse service from German waiters, loot German shops whilst they call Germans traitors, and call them dirty spies. It has inspired people to boycott the good German store, accuse him of starting a war, and accuse him of spreading lies, which means that his cucumbers are now covered in wrinkles, his corn is now covered in pimples, and his fruit is now covered in flies, whilst German measles become liberty measles in a wave of translations, which sees German shepherds become Alsatians, all because of this new tutophobia. Orchestras no longer play music composed by German musicians, and children no longer study Germany's artistic traditions, all because of this new xenophobia. Serials depict Germans as spies disguised as publicans, plutocrats and prostitutes who work in infirmaries, institutions and institutes, and so spy fever starts to grow. It's fueled by films like The Kaiser's Spies, which screen for a small fee, and films like The Huns of the North Sea, which draw crowds wherever they show. Germans are accused of sending smoke signals to Zeppelins, obstructing the production of weapons, and burning down the docks. They are accused of infecting cavalry horses of every size, sabotaging medical supplies, and poisoning the water stocks. But only 9 Germans have been found to be spies, and they were mostly amateurish guys who were arrested at the outbreak of war. So people write to the police, call for their efforts to increase, and call for more arrests than ever before. This encourages the police to arrest Germans all the time, without any reason, rationale or rhyme. As they react to the public's rancour, they arrest an army officer for reporting to his constabulary, a bureaucrat for his stilted vocabulary, and a naval architect for designing a tanker. It is within this culture of public appeasement that the policeman visits the good German in search of an agreement, discourse, discussion and deal. A lantern hangs from a framer's bike, a truncheon hangs from his belt-buckle spike, and a leaf hangs off of his heel. "You are the good German, you are?" he inquires. "I am he, ja," the good German says as he puts down his pliers. But before the policeman can respond, he trips over a sack of seeds and the stack of Swedes, which crash, clatter and crack. He starts grunting, groaning and gasping, rocking, rolling and rasping, whilst he holds his battered back, before he gets to his feet and starts to repeat in an attempt to get back on track. "You are the good German, you are?" he asks in pain. "Ja," the good German says again. "I have told you that is me. Here I am." "Good, good. Anyways, I'd like you to come to the station for a friendly chat, I would. Just to be friendly. Ever so friendly." In a state of stress, Alfred thinks this is an arrest, which is disguised as an invitation. So he grabs this knife, overcome by strife and overcome by a vicious sensation. "Put it away, Alfie, dear boy," the good German says without hesitation. "This nation has been good to me, ja? I am happy to drink from its cup. Don't ever turn to violence for me, dear boy." Alfred laughs with humility, humbleness and humiliation, before he follows his mentor to this police station, where he waits beneath this clock. He waits until the good German emerges from that room, which reduces Alfred's gloom and reduces Alfred's shock. "I'd like a word, I would," the policeman says as he adjusts his cotton sock. "Tell me what you know about this good German. You won't be false, you won't." "I know that he's a good man, full of love, loyalty and passion," Alfred answers. "I know that he's a peaceful man, a Mennonite opposed to militarism, conscription and war." and I know that he loves his country more than his own. Please don't hurt him. Please, please, please. I see. But we live in grave times, we do. Your friend is going to find life a queer old business, he will. 'Tis nice of you to stand up for him, but 'tis rash. It'll bring you face to face with danger, so it will. Anyways, I only say this because I care, I do. I've suggested that your friend wears English clobber, speaks with an English accent, and displays a Union Jack. His German nature is inciting the townsfolk, so it is. And anyways, methinks he can take care of himself, he can. So I'd be much obliged if you spend a little less time worrying about him, and worried a bit more about yourself. You've enough battles of your own, so I've heard, and the more battles you fight, the more you'll lose, so you will. Alfred leaves and walks past his fettler, fruiterer, and fishmonger, before he climbs the oak he loved when he was younger, pleased with the policeman's sermon. And as he gazes out of its twisted elm, he returns to his childhood realm, to a time before he met the good German. With feet which swing in his boots, like leaves or like dangling fruits, Alfred must look ridiculous to his carters, caulkers, and cooks. But as he escapes from society's condemnation, he does not care about his presentation, or about his looks. He breathes in the air which blows off this aqua sea, gazes out at the scenery, which makes him feel esteemed. He sees carnelian rays in the skies, and golden towers arise, which makes him feel redeemed. He sees clouds full of white pearls, which float above streets full of sapphire swells, and he feels with glee. He sees rhodonite leaves, which flutter in this breeze, and he feels free. This is Alfred's Britain, this Britain which gives his soul release. This is Alfred's Britain, this Britain which will never cease. This is Alfred's Britain, this Britain at peace. But Alfred could not stay here on his own, because he is needed at home, where his work still needs to be done. He has vegetables to sell, and carpentry as well. He needs to see Cleo, and he needs to see his mum. Which is why he returns to the good German's greengrocery, which is still full of rocket, rhubarb, and rosemary, peach, potato, and pear. A Union Jack faces the street, British boots are on the good German's feet, and a British hat is on that chair, whilst British idioms fill the air. With some jam on the brakes, pieces of cakes, and let sleeping dogs lie, a quart of a middle, and as fit as a fiddle, and other fishes to fry. But the only customers they see today are this teeth-grinding housekeeper, this eye-rolling sweet streeper, and this foot-tapping gleaner, this statistician, this physician, and this cleaner. And also this man who looks like the dominant assailant who attacked Alfred as a child, who looks riled, wiry, warped and wet. He still has a face which is rather jagged, clothes which are rather ragged, and the smell of stale sweat. Whilst his accomplice is still fairly stumpy and fairly frumpy, like the squatter silent was when they first met. "Long time no see, yeah?" the good German says in a voice which sounds muddled, befuddled, and upset. "That's because I prefer to avoid crowds myself," the dominant silent says as he starts to twiddle, fiddle, and fret. "To buy British, to give my hard-earned wonga to the good British folk that tore half of this here green and pleasant land. I'm what they call a super patriot. I'm hardly going to waste my bratwurst and mush on a rhyme monkey like you, am I now? And I'm a racist," the Scottish silent adds with a lurch, as he starts to besmirch, inspired by a sermon he heard in his church. "God knows it. I hate the dirty Jews, I hate the dirty Irish, and I especially hate you dirty Germans. You militant, child-eating, blood-drinking, monk-killing, filthy Good German looks serene, cool, civil and clean, calm, composed and collected. Alfred finds his good grace so out of place that it makes him feel dejected. "But a plague has sprung up on our fields green," the dominant assailant says with his gaze as he continues on unaffected. "A fire of a plague, lit by a dirty sauerkraut that leaves me no choice but to visit this here lollipop." The fire he's referring to burnt down a naval radio mast, with flames which are vast, and flames which are heated. Firemen could not contain that fire, and so the locals are filled with ire, and feel incredibly cheated. "We know that you done it," he continues on in a manner which is victorious, vainglorious, and conceited. "We know that you was taken to the old bucket and pail just last week, because you're a dirty criminal who needs some good old-fashioned British justice." The dominant assailant puts some vegetables into his sack, along with his Union Jack and this German book, before these ruffians with dirty footwear and dirty hair enter and give Alfred a dirty look. "You're coming with us," the dominant assailant starts to roar as he throws a good German onto the floor near that hood and crook, before his ruffians drag the good German over these stony streets, past those splintered streets, and through these muddy squares, where stones spike him, pebbles pierce him, and gravel covers his clothes in tears. The good German's recent call to non-violence keeps Alfred in a state of silence as he walks 10 metres behind, as he passes this market stall before he enters this music hall, which is full of humankind, which is full of people like this hop picker, this vicar, and this milkman who downs his beer, this brawny shoeshiner, this skinny miner, and this grinder who scratches his ear, this Irish water carrier, this Belgian farrier, and this Welsh cabbie who starts to cheer. These people watch on as the ruffians drag the good German through this lobby, become gobby, and storm this shiny stage, where they start to glare, slap, shout, and swear, with a malicious sort of rage. The dominant assailant gives the blonde bombshell a sloppy kiss, spits at this impressionist, and slaps that timid musician. The musician starts to cry, whilst the impressionist starts to dry, and the blonde bombshell shakes with inhibition. But the good German looks calm, composed, and collected. So even though Alfred feels dejected, he stays at the back of this music hall. He stares into the squat silent's eyes, whilst his shaky thighs pin him into this shaky wall. The squat silent puffs his chest like a man possessed, and expels with satanic chuckles. He wails, inhales, licks his lips, and cracks his knuckles. "Ladies and gentlemen," he sings as he grips his buckles. "Well, ain't you very lucky? Very, very lucky indeed. We've got a very, very special treat for you all today. You see, the test of loyalty in times like these, ladies and gentlemen, is whether or not a man acts with wholehearted support for a war, whether or not he'll do anything for king and country, which means that Germans must renounce Germany and wholeheartedly embrace Britannia, ladies and gentlemen." A few spectators start to tap, cheer, chant and clap, lift their hands and lift their hats. Alfred finds this so disturbing and so perturbing that he almost falls onto those mats. "Nay," dominant assailant chats. "Repeat after me. I swear by God on this oath that the leader of the great British Empire and the great British people, the King, is the supreme commander." Unaffected by the dominant assailant's oration, the good German is happy to repeat his dictation with ease, equilibrium, and elation. "Louder, you mutt. I shall render unconditional obedience," the dominant assailant bleats. "I shall render unconditional obedience," the good German repeats. "I shall be a brave soldier, prepared to give my Nelly Duff for this oath at any time. To hell with the Kaiser, to hell with the Hun, to hell with Germany." The good German repeats its line, which encourages this crowd to whoop, wail, and whine, whilst they down their brandy, bourbon, and beer, whilst these ruffians grin and down some gin, which fills Alfred with frenzied fear. "Kiss this here flag," the squat assailant begins to jeer, clap, chant, and cheer, whilst his arms now fly asunder, whilst he holds the Union Jack near a sledge, and the good German makes his pledge, which fills Alfred with boundless wonder. "Not like that, Jerry. God knows I ain't asking you to kiss your mother on her square-headed cheek. Where's the energy, the intensity, the sensitivity? Use your tongue, you slutty kraut." He sticks his finger through the flag and into the good German's beak, circles it around inside the good German's cheek, and then he begins to speak. "Please don't consider us very, very cruel, ladies and gentlemen," he begins to shriek. "God knows we're only doing our patriotic duty, wiping away disloyal elements in this here godly nation, putting the fear of God into the hearts of those very foreign people who live among us and eat our very tasty food, when they ain't even very British themselves." Some of this crowd shout "hear, hear," some of this crowd cheer, and some of this crowd stay silent, before the rude ruffian who is standing at nook takes a German book and gives it to the squat assailant. "Burn it, Fritz, burn it now," he begins to shout, with cheeks which pout and legs which stomp about. "Certainly," the good German replies. "Please may I have the lighter?" "Please may I have a lighter?" The squat assailant teases like a child, with eyes which look wild, wicked, wolfish, and wild. "Whatever happened to the lighter you used to burn down our mast, strudel fucker?" The good German maintains a dignified silence, as the squat assailant turns to violence with angry indignation. He throws his book across the stage and begins to rage with angry irritation. "Good British citizens," the dominant assailant says with angry exasperation, "there are those who say that the Germans living here amongst us ought to be taken out and shot, and I agree that we'd all benefit from a few hangings, for sure. Most of these rainbow trouts would be better off brown bread. But I'm a kind of gentle being, me. I prefer songs to bullets, don't you know? Nah, what do you say we make this Elga sing? Sing. Sing the national anthem, you stiff piece of bratwurst. Sing." The good German trips over words like glorious and words like victorious as he stumbles through well-known verses. before he follows the dominant assailant's dictation, which earns him an ovation, whilst his ruffian swears and that ruffian curses. Lord grant that every ray may by thy mighty aid victory bring. May he sedition hush, and like a torrent rush, rebellious hunter crush, God save the King. From German pretenders, Great Britain defend her, foes let them fall. From foreign slavery, priests and their knavery, and popish reverie, God save us all. Alfred is relieved that this ordeal is over, but he is worried that his ruffians may not have achieved closure as they stomp their heavy feet, as they drag the good German down this aisle, spit phlegm at him just to be vile, and then drag him down the street. They drag him past this pharmacy which is full of sanitary masks and colourful flasks which are full of colourful liquids. They drag him past his bakery which is full of cakes of every size, homemade pies and homemade biscuits. They drag him past his butchers which is full of fresh ham, fresh lamb and fresh briskets. Before they arrive in this grassy town square, with these children here and those adults there, who are drinking soda, squash and soup, who are watching the sun leave the sky, as Alfred waits nearby, near these teens who are sat in a group. Dump the Prussian, the dominant assailant begins to whoop. Grab some tar from those road repairs and some feathers from that butcher's. We're going to have ourselves a fine Tommy Tucker tonight. The remaining ruffians attach their belts to form a cord, lift a good German from where he's floored, and strap him to his tree. The squat assailant clicks his knuckles, the dominant assailant chuckles, and his ruffians smile with glee. As soon as this ribald ruffian returns with his tar, which is blacker than char, they spread it all over good German's skin. They spread it all over his bulbous nose, tidy clothes, and hairless chin. These picnickers become manic, these dog walkers panic, and these dogs begin to shriek. The good German stays formal, and Alfred stutters more than normal as he finally begins to speak. He's a good man, a British patriot. Haven't you done enough? Please stop. Please. Don't you be getting shirty, little boy, the Scottish silent replies. Do you really think that if there was nothing wrong with this here scummy would be treating him like this? Come on. How very, very silly of you. The very fact that good British folk would do these nasty things to show you what a dirty scumbag this here sausage muncher is. Now, we've been very, very kind to you. We ain't touched the hair on your chin, but you really should scuttle away very, very quickly if you don't want to be blacked up like this here traitor. God knows you deserve a nasty beating. Alfred is soothed by the good German's perseverance, his serene appearance, and the peace in his eyes. So he leaves and walks past his Belgian grannies, Belgian nannies, and Belgian guys. This ragged ruffian soon takes his place, presses some feathers into the tar on the good German's face, and pours some feathers all over his head, so that the good German's cheeks are now covered in a mixture of feathery quills and feathery frills in many shades of red. There ain't no magical power in you, the Scottish servant begins to natter as he steals his brown platter, which is full of brown bread. Before he begins to fiddle, as he cuts the platter down the middle and splits it into two, before he removes the good German's coat, attaches his platter around his throat, and fills it with vegetables too. There ain't no miracle going to save you from this, pretzel lover. God knows it ain't very lawful for you to be here, and we ain't going to stand for your dastardly presence no more. Ladies and gentlemen, it continues with theatrical flair, as he turns to the square, waving his hand through the air. I'd give you the head of a German on this here shiny platter. Look at the chicken. Listen to him cluck. Listen to him cock-a-doodle-doo. Ain't it very, very funny? Ain't it very, very seemly? These ruffians flap their arms like wings, and mock their beheaded prisoner like subordinate kings, before Alfred and the policeman appear. Without any interference, the policeman's very appearance encourages them to flee in fear. You better buy some war bonds, you better pack your bags, they shout as they retreat down that street before they disappear. Before Alfred unties the good German straps, gives him some apple schnapps, and wipes his feathered face. He removes his shiny platter, which causes his vegetables to scatter all over this grassy space. I knew it would all work out okay. You've been most kind, yeah? The good German says as he cuts to a chase. Well then, this is all sorted. It is, the policeman replies with a smile on his face. Those thugs need to be brought to justice, Alfred protests without any grace. Please do something. You're such a good policeman. You're a pillar of society. I'll be ever so grateful. I'll be very much obliged. But the policeman's work has already been multiplied by the Defence of the Realm Act's new measures, which means that he now works overtime without any extra pay, profit, or pleasures, or any extra leave. So Alfred's naivety makes him shake his head, turn bright red, and wipe his brow on his sleeve. What folly, he replies, because he is unsure what an investigation would achieve. Goodness gracious me, you really think a magistrate would prosecute a British citizen for attacking a German? You do? What with things the way they are? How very queer. It'd offend the whole community, it would. These words rattle around Alfred's brain and cause him no end of pain, despair, discomfort, and dejection. But he understands the policeman's view and respects it too, so he does not make any objection. Do you remember when I was mugged as a child? He asks, after a moment of introspection. Well, it was today's assailant who did it. I'm sure of it. You can prosecute them for that without offending the community. Please give it a go. Please, please, please. I see, I do, the policeman replies. That could work. It could. The policeman goes one way, whilst Alfred goes the other, and cares for the good German like a friendly big brother as he fixes his mentor's hip, as he fixes his mentor's bruised thigh, black eye, and split lip. We have 4 new belts now, the good German begins to quib. But I do think the time has come for me to move on, yeah? I love this country more than you will ever know, but it does not appear to love me back. I understand, sir, Alfred replies with resignation, frustration, and vexation. I'll miss you, but I'll never forget you. I'll think of you whenever I retell one of your stories, or follow one of your lessons. You've made me the man I've become. You've done a stand-up job. Top-notch. Champion. Crackerjack. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. But as he says this, Alfred starts to feel forlorn, touched, troubled, and torn, sad, sombre, and stirred. So his friends stand face to face and embrace before the good German has the last word. I'd like you to have the shop and the flat, Alfie, he says as he rolls Alfred's palm around his keys and gives his hand a gentle squeeze near that singing bird. And so after all these years, Alfred's face floods with tears and his hands begin to shake as a brave new world is born and Alfred walks into a brave new dawn with feet which begin to quake. Canada adds her pawns as the bloodshed increases. Turkey adds her shiny black pieces and Japan's black knight lifts her sword. Britain wins a checkmate in Black Basra. Austria defends against White Russia and black and white bombs flood the board. Whilst down near England's south coast, this retired admiral butters his toast and shakes his furry white head. With his men away in distant lands, the admiral needs recruits to follow commands and help his rule to spread. So he mobilises ladies to embark on a mission, white feathers as their ammunition and rouge on their seductive cheeks. With a variety of ages, attitudes and appearances, these ladies are ready for a variety of interferences, so they listen as he speaks. Aha! I've just read this novel, The 4 Feathers, about a private who deserted his unit as soon as it was sent to war. The coward! The wimp! The weakling! Aha! 4 of his comrades plucked white feathers from the arse of a beaten fighting cock, which they gave to that private. Aha! It shamed him so much that he went off to fight and become a real British hero, spying, brawling, fighting, killing. Aha! The private returned his 4 feathers to his comrades with his head held high, but little Blighter just needed a second chance. The Admiral walks down this path and begins to laugh like a demented psychopath. Oh, 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 ah, ha, ha, he, he. You see, the British are a race apart. Aha! There's a soldier in every Brit, whether they know it or not. Gunners, belligerents, fighters, the lot. But some citizens, like the private in this book, do need some help to see it. Aha! You, with your feathers, can help them. Assist, aid, pressure, serve. So give your feathers to every young slacker, deaf or indifferent to their country's needs, who you find loafing about the lees. Aha! Let them know that soldiers are fighting and dying for them. Humiliate them and march them off to enlist. Enroll, sign up, volunteer. Aha! These words inspire chauvinistic harassment and shameful embarrassment to spread all across this land, as ladies with pigtails, perfumed necks and painted nails pass feathers from hand to hand. Indifferent to the capabilities of the men they hunt, they send the infirm, injured and indisposed to the Western Front to kill men in distant fields. They take the discharge to re-enlist, they separate fathers from children as their efforts persist, and they send young boys to act as bomb-blocking shields. Alfred's mother joins them and hands out feathers on trams, trawlers and trains, up busy roads and down country lanes, with putridity, prejudice and pride. She hands out feathers in stores, saloons and cinemas, bars, banks and bazaars, in town and the countryside, before she sits down by the cups which hang on these hooks, and this complete set of Punch's pocketbooks, from where she watches as Alfred enters. She's just made these rock cakes using something runny, some amber honey, and some rocky raisins with seedless centres. "Take one, my little soldier," she says as she holds this feather by its quill, whilst her spine moves her past that sill, towards its coal-powered grill. "Oh, they're scrumptious, Alfred. They are, they are, they are." "I'm good, thank you," Alfred replies. "Man does not live by bread alone." "Oh no, they live because they have brave soldiers protecting them. People like Bernie. Oh, why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why, oh, why can't you be more like Bernie? Oh, why can't you be more like your father in heaven? Oh, I just don't know what to do with you, Alfred Freeman. You're just not respectable." Alfred's mother takes a deep breath and pulls herself together, before she gives Alfred this beautiful white feather, which he holds by its beautiful white quill. Hundreds of barbs jut out from its shaft, thousands of barbules jut out with craft, and millions of hooklets link up in a grill. Alfred finds it sumptuous, scrumptious, and still. "You really should fight, my wonderful warrior," his mother says as she bends over this peppermill. You should. This is your once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to fulfill your destiny and become a mighty soldier who will from north to south and east to west. It is. Don't you reckon you ought to fight?" "You know I don't," Alfred replies as he becomes stressed, pins his feather to his breast, and speaks out with real zest. "There's no goodness in war, mother. There's no goodness in death and destruction, murder and malice, bullets and bombs." "But there is goodness in the army, Alfred. There is. His mother starts to confer with a slur before she passes Alfred his gold, frankincense and myrrh. "Look at me. Oh, do take your chattels." "Give a gold to charity," Alfred replies. "I'll take the frankincense and myrrh for Cleo's nursing, but I'll never fight. No, thank you." "What irresponsibility! Who will protect our nation if you don't, my fearless fighter? Look at me. You could be bathing yourself in honour and glory, somewhere, somewhen, somehow. And yet here you are, giving yourself airs and graces like an uppity moral snob, or some sort of pathetic do-gooder. It is positively foolish. I fear I can't tell you how it pampers me so. Our relations shall reject you, Alfred Freeman. They'll abandon you. You'll become a black sheep of the family. Don't you give a straw? Oh, it's perfectly awful. I just don't know what to do with you. I don't. Alfred shrugs his shoulders, looks at the saucepan holders and his pile of paper folders. "Think of your father in heaven. He'd be the first in line to fight, just like Bernie. And you know it. Do it for him, and do it for the Belgians. Look at me. Their country is in a right funk. My notion. People are saying it's been raped. Raped, my terrific trooper. Raped." Alfred's mother shakes her head, turns bright red, and stares ahead. "The Belgians?" Alfred replies with frustration, agitation, and dread. "The Belgians, mother? Please. The same Belgians who spent the last 40 years raping the Congo? The same Belgians who've been enlisting the Congolese natives, saving their penises and severing their breasts? The same Belgians who've been flogging the Congolese people with whips, torturing them with burning copal, and chopping off their hands? The same Belgians who slaughtered 10 million innocent Congolese natives already? The Belgians, mother? That secret society of murderers? That slave-driving nation? Really, mother? We're not fighting because the Belgians are innocent victims, mother. We're fighting because they sell us cheap rubber. We're fighting to make a profit, to accrue land, oil and gold, and impose our ideologies, politics and religions on everyone else. We're fighting to break up the German and Ottoman empires so we can control their land, workforce and capital. We're fighting to stop Germany from overtaking us as the world's leading naval power. It's ridiculous. Britain fighting Germany? It's like an owl fighting an eagle." This rant drives a wedge between Alfred and his mother, who sways one way and then sways the other before she stumbles from side to side, which means that Alfred has lost a good German who was abused before, Bernie who has gone to war, and his mother who has too much pride. His heart begins to ache and his body begins to shake as he cringes deep down inside. "The Belgians? The Belgians, mother? What about the Boers, mother? What about the Zulus? What about the Ashanti, the Zanzibaris, and the Beninese? What about when father raped them? Mother, I've heard all about his stories. Don't you worry about that. I've heard about how he invaded their independent nations, Mother. How we plundered their wealth, sold their people as slaves, and destroyed their cultures and religions. So don't you judge Germany for having a speck of sawdust in her eye, when we have the whole plank of wood in ours. And don't you tell me about countries raping other countries, when we've been doing it for years. Really? Really, Mother? Do you really want me to kill the Germans, now they're acting like my own father once acted? Really? Really, Mother? Will that make you proud? Will that make the community proud? Will that make the nation proud? Really? Really, Mother? Because if it does, if murder makes you proud, then I don't want anything to do with you again. No, no, no. No, thank you. I love you, Mother. I really do. I think you're the best. I think you're like a spring flower, beautiful and vivacious. But this really is a limit. I don't need you anymore. No, no, no. I'll live in the flat above my green grocery, and I'll never come near you again. Mr. A leaves Alfred breathless as he begins to retreat and walks down the street, past his vagabond, past his jobber, janitor and jailer, tinker, tobacconist and tailor, park, puddle and pond. He returns home before he walks over here, near his drunks who eat warm meals and drink warm beer, beneath its cloudy skies, where he sees the blonde bombshell who smells a bit fruity as she flaunts her beauty and flashes her seductive thighs. Hi, hi, cherry pie, she sings, while she flashes her rings and flutters her come-hither eyes. Alfred lusts after her slender legs and silky pink skin, but he tells himself not to give in, as he flushes with a skittish smile. He tells himself that the blonde bombshell's beauty will look like a flower, and that only true love has any real power and any real style. This is for you, my pet, to show the world that you're a coward, she continues with guile. She winks with her emerald eye, flashes her silky pink thigh, and passes Alfred this beautiful white feather. She is no more aware of the barb's shaft or its barbule's delicate craft than she is of next week's weather. You look pretty wonderful in khaki, Alfiekins. Oh yes, darling. I don't think I'd be able to keep my hands off a dear creature like you if you were in uniform. I know I wouldn't. I just couldn't. The blonde bombshell turns to walk away, now she has said what she came here to say, and pinned her colours to Alfred's mast. But Alfred blocks this track and talks right back with speech which is manically fast. Thank you, thank you, thank you, he says as he stops the blonde bombshell from moving past. I really am very grateful for this feather. You're most kind. You have 10 of the best fingers I've ever seen. But I'm afraid to say that you've given it to the wrong man. I'm no coward. I'm one of the bravest people around. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, thank you. Brave? Brave? Brave, you nasty little man? If you were brave, you'd be knee-deep in French mud, alongside those heroic beauties who, indifferent to their own health, are risking life and limb to keep you safe. But you're not. You're doing nothing for your king, nothing for your country, and nothing for me. How dare you call yourself brave? You're not brave. You're the lowest of the low. You, Alfred Freeman, are indeed a coward, a gargantuan coward, a lily-livered, callow, and faint-hearted coward. As she speaks, Alfred rolls his feather around his finger, allows this meditation to linger, and allows it to set him free. Like when the good German was neglected, Alfred is calm, composed, and collected for everyone else here to see. Your heroes aren't risking their lives or limbs for me, he replies as they walk past that tree. And they're not brave either. They're the cowards. Soldiers are cowards. All the war makers are cowards. They're cowards because, overcome by fear, they turn their backs on morality. They act in response to a fear of being invaded, a fear of the Germans, Austrians and Turkish, and a fear of the foreign, unknown and unusual, a fear which makes them brutal, barbaric and bloodthirsty. And since only cowards respond to fear, without the courage to overcome it, soldiers must be cowards. But my actions aren't guided by fear. I laugh at fear. I don't fear being invaded, the Austrians, Germans or Turkish, the foreign, unknown or unusual. I haven't become brutal, barbaric or bloodthirsty. And since only brave people can overcome fear, I must be the brave one. The blonde bombshell taps her feet, walks down that street and swishes her golden hair. She walks off in that direction with bilious dejection and bilious despair, whilst Alfred walks past his bar, the spar and the square. He walks past his boys who are attracted to that group of girls who wear fake pearls and are attracted to them as well. But neither group approaches the other. They just stand here with one another while they yap, yak and yell. He walks past his mother with her baby, who she rocks on her knee while she dreams about what he could become. He walks past his old man who thinks about his childhood while she sucks on his wrinkled thumb. Alfred reaches the tallest hill in his town, where this money changer is wearing a gown with her hair in the flap of fashion, with a face which is covered in shiny veins, a neck which is covered in shiny chains, and a voice which is full of passion. Hello there. I see you haven't joined the ranks of the intelligent, respectable and strong. It doesn't do. It just doesn't do. Well, this is your lucky day, good sir. Come with a retired captain and me to the enrolment office. We'll take good care of you. The army will lift you up. It will fill your pockets with pounds, shillings and pence. Everyone will love and respect you. The whole world will be yours. All yours. But what shall it profit a man, Alfred replies, if he gains the whole world but lose his soul? You can shoot your words at me. Please do. Please, please, please. But I'll never worship your war. No, no, no. Shoot words at you? I can shoot words at you? The money changer bribes. The Germans don't shoot words. They shoot bullets. And if people like you didn't fight them and march across Europe unopposed, it wouldn't do. It just wouldn't do. Not at all, Alfred replies. You're ever so kind to talk to me. You're ever so dashing. Please understand. Wars will cease when men refuse to fight them. If people like me didn't fight, there'd never be a war again. That's all very well in theory, but in practice it doesn't do. It just doesn't do. The Germans are fighting, and they're doing the most heinous things. Shouldn't you be avenging them? I ain't got no quarrel with the Germans, Alfred answers. No German ever called me a faint-hearted coward. And anyway, forgiveness is the greatest revenge. It can make us the superior nation, win us a worthy of victory, and help us to triumph in a nobler war. Yes, yes, yes. Forgiveness is the greatest revenge? Forgiveness is revenge? The money changer mutters near those flooded gutters and corrugated shutters. She removes his feather from her purse, starts to curse, and shoves it up Alfred's nose. She twists it around and begins to pound until blood drenches Alfred's clothes. Frustrated by Alfred's stubborn firmness, serenity, straightness and sternness, she turns and runs away. She mutters, selfish shirker, and begins to spit. She mutters, innocent half-wit, and she heads towards the bay. With 3 feathers to his name, 3 weeks pass without a claim or any sort of reaction, before Alfred sees his Sunday school teacher, this bottom-shaking creature who is seeking satisfaction. Alfred, cuddle bunny, she sings as she dives into action. Aren't you going to join our boys in khaki, my muffin? Oh no, thank you, Alfred replies. I couldn't ever go to war, having heard you speak about loving your enemy and turning your other cheek. No thank you. But you wouldn't be fighting your enemy, sweetie pie, she replies amidst his foot shuffling, hair ruffling and scuffling. You'd be fighting your nation's enemy. It's not at all the same. You have a holy empire to defend. Going to war will bring you power and glory in this lifetime and eternal life in the next. It's time for you to take up your daddy's throne, sugar. It's time for you to rise to the top. But Alfred has already made his choice. He has chosen to use his voice as a pro-priest teacher. Rather than rule from north to south, he has chosen to use his mouth as a pro-priest preacher. He has chosen to free the chained and soothe the strained with love for every creature. Do you remember when you told me to overcome temptation and follow the Lord? He asked the Sunday school teacher. It was good advice. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I was ever so grateful. You were as sweet as a bucket of bonbons. I could have swallowed you whole. Well, I listened, and so I won't be tempted by power. I won't be tempted by glory, and I won't be tempted by eternal life. No, no, no. No way. Not today, not tomorrow, not ever. Never, ever, ever. And so, just like the private in the Admiral's book, this rebuttal earns Alfred this condescending look and this 4th white feather. But unlike the private who is swayed by his mate, Alfred has not been tempted by food, fornication, fame, or fate. He has kept himself together. He has protected his substance, senses, spirit and soul from the ladies who have tried to swallow him whole, dressed up in lace, linen and leather. He receives many more feathers in the post, but he cherishes these first 4 the most, since they inspire him to confront the war makers. They inspire him to preach in the street, wherever people meet, near bailiffs, butchers and bakers. They inspire him to get off the shelf, stand up for himself and all the other peacemakers.